Hey, and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm a certified peer support specialist working with people worldwide to provide support as you're working toward recovery for OCD. I can also provide referrals to therapists all over the world, and I'm the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I hope you're having a good week. I am doing great. So excited to be here. Continuing my series on talking about themes. First, NoCD. NoCD is an app. Inside the app, they have all kinds of resources where you can connect to people with OCD, but they also do telehealth around the world. And so if you're interested in finding out more about that, go to treatmyocd.com. So today I wanted to talk about the theme sexual orientation OCD. This theme has a special place in my heart. If you've read my book, you know why. And also I've talked about it a lot on here in other videos and referenced my own experience with it. And sexual orientation OCD, kind of like the psychosis video that I did before, can be a really tricky topic if people don't understand how it can manifest with OCD. So again, I need to be really careful with my language when I'm talking about this. It can come across as in the same as individuals who live with psychosis and schizophrenia. Sometimes people can misunderstand OCD as being people don't want to be gay because they think it's wrong, or bisexual because they think it's wrong, or you know people are homophobic or anything along those lines. When OCD manifests like this with this theme, it is most likely the opposite of that. It is most likely I don't have any issues whatsoever with individuals who identify as gay or bi or straight or anything. It just isn't what I want. And so this is why it can get confusing. This is why there can be a lot of shame around it, and then why people won't ask for help and they're scared to ask for help. They're scared to ask for help because they're scared that they're going to be labeled as homophobic, or they're also scared to ask for help because they might be perceived that way, or they're scared to ask for help because if a therapist doesn't understand, they may think that these intrusive thoughts are a precursor to wanting to come out of the closet. And so it can just be really confusing, and the theme itself can become a barrier for treatment. Now, it's also important to note that, a lot of people who also experience this in kind of the opposite direction. Individuals who identify as gay or bi also have intrusive thoughts of being straight. And so this way you can see how the theme can manifest in a way of it's not really about that content, but it is more about the needing to know and having proof one way or another. And as we know with OCD, and I've said so many times on my videos, if there's not a problem, a real problem or a real threat, then there's not a real solution. So trying to find the solution and trying to find proof is why we get stuck in that awful, awful cycle. So let's get into it a little bit. So sexual orientation OCD, I really can just use my lived experience here. But understand that this can go in any sort of direction. This is just essentially having intrusive thoughts about what your sexuality is. For me, this manifested when I was 14. I remember the moment it happened. It was terrifying, life-changing to say the least. Now, I was a normal, sexually curious teenager, right? And I was boy crazy. But I had the normal wants to connect and make out and have that crush feeling and butterflies, and I was really excited about falling in love, and I loved having crushes on people and things like that. But at the end of the day, I just loved dudes, and I was hanging out with a friend. And it's super complex, so I don't want to get into why I got triggered in this way. But we were talking about sex, and I already had intrusive thoughts around not talking about or engaging in anything that might be a sin, because I had religious scrupulosity back then, and this completely coincided with all my themes. And so when we started talking about those things, I started to have anxiety because I thought these are things you're not supposed to talk about. But I decided to anyway, and then was kind of looking to get triggered because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get punished. It's so complex. This is getting way more complex than I wanted it to. But to say the least, that is when the sexual orientation intrusive thoughts showed up for me. Despite whatever I thought the reasoning was, whether it had to do with OCD or anything else. It was later that night, I started thinking about the earlier conversation. I had anxiety about why we were talking about that and what does that mean, and am I a bad person for talking about sex? I mean, this is what happens when you have religious scrupulosity. You just think you're fucking sinning all the time. So as soon as that happened, my head, started thinking about sex, and then I was like, no, I'm not supposed to think about that. And then all of a sudden I had this visual of like my friend having sex with her boyfriend, and my brain went, you want to see her naked? And that's when I went, wait, no, I don't. What? And then my brain went, does that mean you're gay? And that was, it was almost like someone had lit a fire at my brain base, and my brain just blew up on fire. Even then, and I think I've shared this with you before, this was way back in the 90s, y'all, in the South. I remember thinking that night, I don't care if anyone is gay. I mean, people can be gay if they want to be gay. I could be gay if I wanted to be gay, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I just know I'm not, but my brain had already hooked. And at that point, the mission then became to prove, am I gay or am I straight? And as we know, because of the faulty system in our brain, there really wasn't a threat. It was just the anxiety paired with a thought that now had me doing all these compulsions to try to prove or find a solution that didn't exist. In the grand scheme of things, nothing had changed that night, except for I got anxiety attached to a thought and then started doing compulsions, telling my amygdala, we are now having a threat and you need to warn me. So from that moment on, every waking moment and every sleeping moment, sometimes in my dreams, became, I need to somehow prove or figure out what my sexuality is. And I was scared all of the time. And it was bizarre because I would still have feelings, butterflies and giddy feelings and desires for dudes. But then my brain would be like, oh, but maybe you're lying, or, maybe you're in denial. That was the bigger one. And at that point, I had told no one about my OCD. They knew nothing about the emetophobia, religious scrupulosity, all these other intrusive thoughts that I'd had. So I was not going to tell anyone. And a lot of it was the fear of being misunderstood, or the fear of people not believing that these were thoughts that I didn't want or that I really didn't believe. So I lived with this for 6 years. Y'all, there was no internet back then. So I couldn't go on and Google, and find anything. And I mean, I can tell you it was absolute torture. Now, during this time, there were also, and a lot of you expressed this about your themes, there were also times where it ebbed and flowed, where I would go for months and it would be in the back of my head. It always bothered me that it was in the back of my head, because then, of course, that would fuel the, what if you're in denial, or what if this comes up at some point and you have to accept some sort of truth. So that was scary for me. But I mean, I fell in love during that time with my high school boyfriend. I got my heart broken at one point, and so that was bizarre. I'm like grieving over here from being heartbroken from someone that I love, but then I was like, but am I gay? Like it made no sense whatsoever, right? And so it was almost like I was living this life that I wanted, but there was always this questioning in the back of my head, which made things really tough, because then I would go, am I living a life that's a lie, even though that's what I want? And at what point are these thoughts going to go away? And of course, the more we want thoughts to go away, the more we're not. So you can take my story for whatever it is and apply it to anything that comes to sexual orientation. You can apply it to individuals that are gay and worried that they're going to be straight. The same things happen. You're ruminating constantly. You're looking for proof. So of course I would compare. I would look at things and be, I'd be like, oh my gosh, did I look at the girl first? Or did I look at the guy? Or I would look at women walking down the street. Why am I staring at her? Oh my God, I think my eyeballs just went down to her boobs. What does that mean? Or her crotch. You know, where I would make out with people and I would be like, do I really want dick? Or do I want boobs? And so you sit there and you're like, I don't know what I want. Do I want it or not? Even though like I knew that I wanted it, but it still would make me question. So then of course that impacted my libido, especially when I was in college. Oh my God, like I would make out and just sit there and be like, I just orgasmed, but did I really orgasmed, with this dude? Or was I thinking about somebody else? Or did something pop up? And then of course, y'all, the groinal. And with sexual orientation OCD, with any sexual intrusive thoughts, the groinal is just fucking brutal. Once the groinal showed up, it was just like DEFCON 5. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I can't figure anything out. I would literally sometimes look at a rock on the ground and I'd get a groinal and be like, I thought that rock looked like a boob. Everywhere I looked, it was like, groinal, that's proof. And shit that did not even make sense. And hanging out with my girlfriends, I would get the groinal and it was just so awful. I ran cross country for college, so I'm always around naked chicks. Groinal's happening over here, and then you're comparing, I don't understand why I'm getting a groinal over here to this girl, but I'm making out with this dude and it doesn't feel like as strong as the groinal does. So should I look at the groinal for proof? So yes, this theme is absolutely torturing, and the nature of it needing to be silent too because of the content and not wanting to stigmatize the LGBTQ community is also really hard for people because it feels like, when your value system is, I support that community, but I'm having these intrusive thoughts, it makes me feel shame and guilt. It makes me feel like I don't support them when I actually do. And this is where you can dig a little bit into the content doesn't matter. Even though I know the content does matter to you personally, you can dig into it and say, the content doesn't matter when it comes to get treatment, because at the end of the day, these are intrusive thoughts being fueled by compulsions, and the solution is to stop trying to find a solution and to make them irrelevant. So I know I probably didn't cover all of everything that can happen when you experience sexual orientation, but I just kind of wanted to go over the basics. A couple more things. A lot of people might use porn as a compulsion to try to prove or disprove. This can backfire a lot because sex in general, like I said before, anytime you see something being inserted in a hole, groinal or not, like it sometimes can be arousing. So watching porn in order to prove whether or not you are straight or gay or bi or anything, it can really add to the confusion. Okay, so using porn can make things worse when it comes to trying to look for proof or disproof. I also want to cover this too, and I think it's really important, and I know that this might trigger some of you, but I really think it's really important to cover. Sometimes you're going to read things like, you never act on intrusive thoughts, that's how you know it's OCD. I've done videos on this because acting is in the eye of the beholder, right? If I, rub my dog's back and then I accidentally move it towards his butthole. Did I act on it? I don't know. Maybe I did. Oh my God, I acted on it. No, I didn't. Whatever. Maybe it was just testing. Who knows? That was a bad example. And I don't touch my dog's butthole. But anyway, sometimes people do think to themselves because I think for a lot of people in the LGBTQ community, and they do have anxiety around coming out or dating same sex, or exploring that, sometimes you might think to yourself, well, maybe I need to test or check or do compulsions and go out with someone of the same sex or make out, and you see this as an act of, I will do that and then I will know. I highly encourage you not to do that if it is compulsive. First, you're going to bump up against I acted on it, and so that means it's not OCD. Also, you're probably going to be very confused during and after of why did I even do that in the first place, and I don't have any more answers now. Or you might go out with somebody and then go, see, I am not into the same sex, but then later start to go, but was I? And then you're kind of already in that trap of I acted on it, and so that brings a whole other layer of the, oh no, that must mean it's not OCD, blah 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 blah. I wanted to bring that up because a lot of people do explore in different ways, looking for proof, not realizing it's compulsive. And what that can do is it just drives you deeper into the hole, because it just opens up all these other questions about why you would do those things in the first place and why it didn't prove, right? I mean, in our logical brain, we would think, well, if I just, explore, then I'm going to know it's right or wrong. But that's not how OCD works, because OCD doesn't work off of logic, it works off of behavior. So sexual orientation OCD can take all these different forms, and it is very, very confusing, and it's very scary for people, and it really does create these obstacles to getting treatment based on the shame and the guilt of even having the intrusive thoughts in the first place, feeling like you're doing something wrong to the LGBTQ community because you are supportive toward them, feeling like it's wrong that you even have thoughts about it because you don't think being gay or being bi is wrong at all. So it's really important, though, to get get treatment for this theme and to take the risk and talk to a therapist who specializes in OCD about this theme in particular. Let me tell you something. OCD therapists are going to know. They get it. This is one of the most common themes across the board. So you're not alone in this. And I will tell you, I lived with this for 6 years. It was absolutely brutal not knowing and not being able to tell a soul about it. I went into therapy thinking I'm scared of what I'm going to find out. I'm scared I'm in denial and I just don't know it. And I'm living a lie, blah, 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 blah. I even asked Phillipson, do you think I'm the only person that has all the symptoms of OCD? And I'm going to find out I'm not. And he didn't answer. And in fact, probably taunted me even more. I went into therapy so sick with OCD, 24/7, groinal all the time. It was in my dreams, everything. And I got better. I got better from this theme. I do not live with this theme anymore. It doesn't bother me. It pops up every once in a while. And when it does, I'm like, I use my tools and I got better. And so if I can get better, you can get better. Don't give up. Know that this is something that can be managed. Recovery is possible. There is hope. And so I'm so glad that you're here. I hope this was helpful. Know that I did not cover every single thing regarding sexual orientation OCD, but take what you can from this video, and I really hope it helps. And I will see you next week on my next themed video. Hope you have a great weekend.